Good afternoon, everybody. It's evening now, but you know what? We're going to get to you right after this quick video.
I want you to bleed for me.
Good evening, everybody. My name, Christopher Babos, here with Philly Sports Network. We're running a solo show today here on November the 5th, 2024. It's election day. My cohort in crime, Eric Reese, taking care of some civic duty. So thank you very much, Eric, for helping out there. Very much appreciative of anyone that took the opportunity to take care of people at the polls today. If you haven't went out, please go and vote. It's one of the things that makes our country great. And that's about as far as I'm going to go with the politics here today. We're here to talk about the Philadelphia Flyers, and the Philadelphia Flyers are about to embark on a really tough road trip with some really questionable goaltending situations that we're going to cover here in the next hopefully 15-20 minutes or so. It depends how quickly I run through my notes here. I am flying solo Sokoa here, so please interact with the show. Questions, comments, concerns. Again, no politics, please. But yeah, say hi, and we'll go ahead. We'll pop a message up here, and we can respond to your stuff here today. A lot easier here with just me by myself, as opposed to when I'm with Eric. So if you are not familiar with me, my name, once again, Christopher Babos. I am a Philadelphia Flyers and a Philadelphia Eagles writer for the Philadelphia Sports Network. I am responsible for creating the show here, another shoot another Flyer show, obviously branded off of the Wells Fargo Center, and thus trying to tell the Philadelphia Flyers to shoot the puck more, which they absolutely still need to do. Philadelphia Flyers are 2-6-1. Last week, they had 5 points in the standings. They improved to a 4-7-1 after a 2-1 week. They had 9 points in the season on the season, 8th in the Metro. But they're only 2 points out of 5th place in the Metro, and we'll touch on that in a second. It's starting to become a little bit of a distance gap, and if you are in the bottom 4 right now in the Metropolitan Division, which the Philadelphia Flyers are, it's not exactly the happiest place to be. Before we jump too far into the week, Philadelphia Flyers last week go 2-1, as I mentioned. They win in Boston for the first time in 13 years, a 2-0 win before a home win against the St. Louis Blues. And then they surprisingly, at least to me anyway, dropped a 3-0 shutout loss at home to the same Boston Bruins, who, to their credit, Boston definitely showed up to play in that hockey game. Flyers definitely didn't have their A game, and they paid the price for it. Flyers pick up 4 points out of a possible 6 points in the standings, so that's always good. That leaves them with 37.5% of the points that they could have gotten. So, I mean, obviously that is not the best percentage-wise, but you know what? It's better than last week's 28%. So, moving upwards with the 2-win and the 1-loss week. Does not look to be a very easy week coming up against a couple of very challenging teams in the Eastern Conference tonight. Carolina on a 6-game heater. They've won 6 straight. They're 8-2 on the season with not really many losses. They lost their opening night to the Tampa Bay Lightning and really have gone on a really good run since then. So it'll be very interesting to see how the Philadelphia Flyers react tonight, given the questions that they have in net against a team that features some really good scorers. Thursday night, we've got Tampa Bay, 7-5. They're second in the Atlantic Division. Saturday is Florida, a 5-game winning streak and the top team in the Metro. They've just been an absolute Mack truck this year in the NHL. 9-3-1 on the year, and really have beaten some of the top teams in the National Hockey League. So that should be a really tough test. And then the Flyers come home next Monday before we join you again next Tuesday. They'll host San Jose Sharks, 3-8-2. They feature the first overall pick, Macklin Celebrini. He's finally back tonight for the first time since game one. They sit last in the Pacific, so that could be an opportunity for Philadelphia to pick up some wins or at least see where they measure up in regards to one of the suspected worst teams in the league, even though you never quite know what you're going to get on any one individual NHL game night from night to night. Teams battle and a team can certainly surprise you. The highlight for me for the last week, I usually like to ask Eric and see what that was. For me, it was a personal highlight. If you don't follow me on Twitter or X, that's where the bulk of my content is. You can find me at C Babos Writes. It's C Babos Writes right there on the screen. And you can find all of my content, Eagles, Flyers, and Washington Capitals. I'm invested in the Ovechkin chase for the NHL regular season goal scoring crown. I think it's awesome that we have the opportunity to watch something like that unfold in real time. And I'm even more blessed to be able to potentially cover that. And not even potentially cover it. I mean, I do cover it. I've covered the Capitals, all season long. Another team just like the Florida Panthers that have just really been a wagon this year. But we can touch on Washington again when the Flyers will get the opportunity to play the game a little later in the season. Looking at the Metropolitan Division after 10 games, the Flyers have played 12 games. Most of the division have played at least 10. The order goes New Jersey Devils, New York Rangers, Carolina Hurricanes, and then those Washington Capitals. There's a 2-point difference between those four teams with 18 points to 16 points. Really, really tight race. Every one of those four teams has 8 wins. It's just a matter of the loss column and the tiebreaker points that really make the difference there. And then there's that little bit of a chasm that I mentioned a little earlier in the show with a 5-point gap opening up between the 4th and the 5th place in that Metropolitan Division. Columbus, Pittsburgh, New York Islanders, and then the Philadelphia Flyers. Once again, a very, very close race. Columbus has 11 points. The Flyers have 9. So there's really only a 2-point difference from the basement to the 5th spot. But there's a little bit of a hill to climb that's opening up between Columbus and the Washington Capitals. And that's something to be aware of as the Philadelphia Flyers continue to press forward on this season. Despite some very questionable goaltending, we didn't know about that yet when we start our recap here in last week. And that was when the Philadelphia Flyers traveled to Boston. The Philadelphia Flyers have not beaten Boston in 13 years in Massachusetts, which, if you want to think about how long that is, think about how long Sean Couturier has been around the Philadelphia Flyers organization. He was a rookie the last time the Philadelphia Flyers beat the Boston Bruins, which is pretty wild to think about. Both Eric and I were wrong in our assessment. We thought the Flyers were going to lose. I said 4-3. He had 3-2. This guy, Eric Bischoff, smile, did call a Forrester goal. So he scored one of the 2 goals for Tyson Forrester. Flyers win 2-0, 13 years, as I mentioned. Bobby Brink almost got on the scoreboard. He was denied by Jonas Korpisalo twice in the first 90 seconds. Really should have gotten a puck past him. Denied at the side of the net. Really, really good saves by Korpisalo, who's Boston's backup this year. Pretty impressive stuff. Who then, about 5-6 minutes later, absolutely robbed Garnet Hathaway on a pass that went across from dot to dot. Hathaway looked like he had a really good opportunity, fired a really good shot. Korpisalo was there, got the glove on it. And that's basically how the first period played out. Both teams kind of battled, but neither one really was able to gain an edge. In the second period, Tyson Forrester scored his second of the year at 5:32, an assist from Emil Andre and Morgan Frost. It was actually a nice play from Forrester. He fired a laser of a shot that just missed the net, hit the backboards. Emil Andre picks it up off of the sideboards, manages to get the puck across into the slot area, and Forrester, who has just one of the best shots on the team, buried it 5-hole past Korpisalo for the 1-0 lead for Philadelphia. fairly early in that second period. Um, Tyson Forrester, he's one of those players that every time I get the chance to watch him in practice, I just get enamored by how good his shot is, how hard it is, because it's pretty unassuming. You didn't see it a ton last year, and once he starts hitting the net more consistently, he's definitely going to be one of those better flyer scorers to watch out for. Joel Farabee ended the game with 1936 in the third period on the empty net goal. He flagged down a puck in center ice from Charlie McAvoy, skated in, put it away. Flyers win 2-0 in Boston. Everybody celebrates a 25 save shutout from Sam Ersson. Forster again the goal. Matvei Michkov, just because everybody wants to know, had 2 shots, 15 minutes and 36 seconds of ice time. Really no other stats to speak of, though, for Michkov, as he's really struggling to find room and find some space within the 5-on-5 play. It's something that John Tortorella has spoken to. And it's something that's going to continue to be something that he's going to have to learn. And this is why in the offseason, Danny Briere, Keith Jones said, pump the brakes. He's a 19-year-old kid. He's got to learn to play NHL hockey. And you're seeing it right there, right now in this stretch of the early, 10 to 15 games of his early career, where it's going to take him time to figure out where he needs to be and position himself. And something Torts even talked about himself is where he needs to be positioned defensively. In the KHL, Michkov always liked to play on the sideboards and be available for a pass to come out of a scrum and just pop open an open space. Whereas Tortorella and the Flyers really need that winger to kind of go into that scrum, try to get the puck and create that loose puck opportunity. So it's something that's going to take a little bit of time for Matvei Michkov to learn at the NHL level. And it's something that John Tortorella has not been shy about saying, that, he's going to try to do his best to teach him this. And he might miss some ice time. He might even miss a game or two in order to get that message across to get Matvei Michkov. Now, granted, I don't think you're going to see it before the end of maybe November, unless Michkov's play really takes a nosedive. But we've seen some crazy benchings in December before around Philadelphia, and if his 5-on-5 play continues to suffer, then I would not be stunned to see Michkov sit a game or two there. Moving along Thursday night, another win for the Philadelphia Flyers. It was a close one at the Wells Fargo Center. They battled St. Louis, their second straight victory. Both Eric and I predicted the win. I had 5-2. He had 4-2. So another one got the scoreboard. We at least got the W. I had a Michkov power play goal. He had a Tyson Forrester empty netter. Again, neither one of those happened, but you know what? We'll take the wins where we can get them. Nice job, Eric. We both went 1-2 on the night. The actual results: Philadelphia Flyers win 2-1 over the Blues. Bobby Brink scored a late winner, 3:01 left in the third period. And it was the second win in front of the Philadelphia Flyers moms, which they should stick around a little more if the Flyers are going to play like that in front of them, because they had a quite inspired effort in a game against the Blues that was really tight. The first goal of the game does deserve some mentioning. Ryan Poehling, the fourth line, goes absolute beast mode on an end-to-end rush from his own defensive zone, navigates his way through neutral zone, skates in across the offensive blue line, finds Garnet Hathaway, who continued to just sneak his way down the side of the boards. 2-on-1 pass. Hathaway buries it. Great individual effort by Ryan Poehling, so we just kind of had to mention that one for him, because that was really a fantastic play by him. And if he, is able to provide, 5, 6, 7 more plays like that throughout the season, then it's a situation that, Poehling can add a lot of value to the team. Notable performances: Ersson once again, 20 saves, 9.52 save percentage, so he stopped 95% of the shots that he faced. Ryan Poehling again the assist. Matvei Michkov 1 shot in the 13:56 of ice time. Jankin 905. Thank you very much for popping in. Tortorella must be losing it. He should have been Philly playoffs and fired by now. I understand where you're coming from that. They still are very consistent in the rebuild and saying that that's where the Flyers are on the pace to do. I will be honest that I wasn't entirely sure Tortorella would be back after the end of last season and how that season ended. Um, but seeing how the team has played this year, seeing practices, seeing how he's coached, um, I do think that he has a lot to offer, especially a 19-year-old rookie like Matt Van Michkov. His experience is something that you can't exactly buy. So I think that Michkov having a coach like Tortorella to teach him some of the NHL defensive responsibilities is really important, and I think that's one of the reasons that he's still around, and also the simple fact that the Flyers still have to pay Elaine Vigneault a lot of money to go away. So I highly doubt that they are that thrilled. We'll go with the word thrilled to go ahead and pay another big ticket head coach a lot of money to not coach the Philadelphia Flyers. So we'll see what happens with the coaching situation. For now, I say that John Tortorella is probably fairly safe, unless there's another extended losing streak. Talking 8, 10 plus games. Then I think you might start to get those rumblings of coaching change. Saturday against Boston was a home game for the Philadelphia Flyers, once again at the Wells Fargo Center. 3-0 loss. Both Eric and I had wins. I had 3-1. He had 5-3. Cross goal for me, Kate's goal for him. Neither one of those transpired, obviously, in a shutout loss to the Boston Bruins. They were not the Boston Cubs from earlier in the week. The Boston Bruins played extremely well. The Philadelphia Flyers did not have their A game. They paid for it. 3 goals for Boston. Matthew Patra, I believe I got that right. 13:28 of the first period. Justin Brazeau had the second goal for Boston, and then Brad Marchand, as always, empty net goal, sealed it for the 3-0 win. Of course, David Pastrnak picks up another point. He gets an assist on the empty netter. Kolosov did actually look good in that game. I will say that is one of the things that came out of the Boston game, and one of the things that took away from John Tortorella in his post-game press conference, which, if you're not aware, the Philadelphia Flyers do post on their social media accounts probably a good 45 minutes to an hour or so after it occurs, I would suspect. But you can listen to that for yourself. And one of the things he said was that he thought that Kolosov battled being put into a very tough situation. 8 saves into the game. The game went to a commercial break. Sam Ersson had some conversations with trainer. He came back from commercial break. They went to go start play. Ersson had some more conversations with the trainer, and all of a sudden, Aleksei Kolosov starts doing gymnastics on the ice and getting himself ready to come in the game. Right now, the most that we know officially is it's a lower body injury for Sam Ersson. The early reports that we've seen are it's about a week that they can be expecting to be without Ersson. With lower body injuries and goalies, it can always be very difficult. My brother was a goaltender, and I know it's something that it can be unpredictable. You're always using your legs, you're always using your muscles, and he could feel perfectly fine one day, move the wrong way, and practice another day, and you're on the shelf for another week. So with goaltenders, can always be a little tough, but it's something that we can kind of take a gander at, and it gives an opportunity that both young goaltenders that the Flyers have. And at this point, I still consider Fedotov a young goaltender in NHL terms, at least, um, to get some opportunities and get some games. Kolosov, without a doubt, is going to be the starter moving forward. Tortorella said that. But I could see at some point, and we'll get there, that Fedotov should definitely get an opportunity to find his way into a game or two at some point in this series. Since I did mention Fedotov and the goaltending situation, I put out online if anybody had some questions for our lovely show here today. We did get an entry that asked if Carson Bjarnason and Zaverian, who's over in the KHL, are going to end up being our Boston tandem, so to speak, our Linus Ullmark and our Jeremy Swayman. I think it's way too early to say that. Zaverian looks unbelievably fantastic right now for the KHL. He's a young goaltender. We don't know how that's going to develop. If memory serves, he's also under contract for 2 years. Similar situation with Matvey Michkov. I don't know if it's going to be as quote unquote easy to get Zavrigan across to North America as it was, just given all of the circumstances that surrounded Matvey Michkov, his family, Sochi, you know, CSKA Moscow. There was just a lot going on there that facilitated Michkov coming over to the Flyers early. I wouldn't pin my hopes on that happening for Zavrigan. And honestly, I kind of hope it doesn't. The Flyers still very much are in that retool rebuild stage. They have 3 first round picks in the upcoming draft. So they've got 2 years to build on things potentially before having, who knows, in 2 years might be one of the best prospect goalies in the world that's not in the NHL at the time. So it's too early to play out, but I like Carson Bjarnason's opportunity to play in major juniors this year. He should have a really good opportunity to play, hopefully, with Jet Luchenko, potentially Barkey, potentially Bonk on Team Canada for the World Juniors, which should be a really fun tournament to watch for Flyers fans in December. And I think that's really where the goaltending situation sits right now. It's going to be a ride over the next 2 weeks or so until Ersson gets himself tip-top shape, hopefully. Keep in mind, as much as it's not fun to watch as a Flyers fan, it is very much a situation where losses rather are not the worst thing for this franchise. That's the part of the rebuild that helps. The Flyers did great work with scouting and uncovering Jet Luchenko in last year's first round with the 13th pick. And they have some really, really, at least the potential is there for them to have some really high draft picks. And when you can add an infusion of talent like that, all of those problems that people are like, we need a center, we need a center, we need a center. Well, you might have a chance to get 1 or 2 really solid opportunities, really solid centers with some of those picks that you hold at the top of next year's draft. I believe it's actually 6 in the first 2 or 3 rounds. So they're in solid shape moving forward for the Philadelphia Flyers. Sorry about that. The other thing I want to touch on in regards to the goaltending situation, the Flyers did improve their goals against average. They were 4.44 goals against average entering play last week, 3.67 this week. And they'll actually have an opportunity to battle the San Jose Sharks next Monday, one of the very few teams that are below them. In those standings, the Sharks are 29th with a 3.77 goals against average. That one is definitely going to be an opportunity that the Flyers might need after a couple of really tough games coming up here. Mr. Twitzer, absolutely. I'm with you there. The Flyers somehow managed to land a top 5 pick. Hopefully a top 1 pick. That would be absolutely lovely. I think the Philadelphia Flyers fans particularly deserve that, but I'm biased in that regard, watching Flyers hockey for over 20 years. But yeah, top 5 pick would absolutely benefit this franchise greatly. Let's just, in the top of my head, without thinking about that, top 5 pick plus another, let's pick 11 and pick 15. Now you're talking 3 picks in that top 15, something like that, and keep in mind, I don't know if I'm going to be right. I'm still pretty bullish, even though he's struggling on 5-on-5. I still think that Matvey Michkov has an opportunity to win the Calder, and had the opportunity. Geez, how many times can I say opportunity in this podcast? The chance to draft another player of the caliber of a Matt Michkov with those high picks is something that can really set this franchise up for some success in the future. We are 25 minutes into this. We've got about half an hour until the Philadelphia Flyers take on the Carolina Hurricanes down at Lenovo Center. Yes, that's right. Lenovo Center is no longer PNC Arena, which I actually always liked. I thought that was easy to say. But game time, 7:00, so about half an hour from now. Carolina has been a juggernaut in the East this season. They lost their first game to the Tampa Bay Lightning, 8-1 since. 16 points in the standings, third in the Metro. They're 1 point above the team that they just beat most recently, which was the Washington Capitals, a 4-2 win. A little bit of an unfair matchup. Washington was coming on the second half of a back-to-back. Carolina had 2 days off before the game. It was a 4-2 win for the Carolina Hurricanes. The Canes come in winning 6 straight. Not all of them against cupcake teams. A 6-1 Boston team, which we saw how tough they can be. They smashed Boston 8-2. Never exactly hate to see that one. A West Coast road trip similar to the trip that the Flyers went on to start the season. You had the Edmonton Oilers, Calgary Flames, Seattle Kraken, Vancouver Canucks, all wins, all 2 or 3 goal games. That Western Conference standings, if you have a second, go check those out because that is a bloodbath out there. Really, really tight matchups in the early portion of the season. Not quite what you're seeing in the Metro, where there's starting to be a division there. The biggest question tonight for the Philadelphia Flyers, can they outscore the Carolina Hurricanes? Carolina enters scoring about 4.5 goals per game over their last 5. The Philadelphia Flyers averaging 2 goals a game most recently. So it's going to be a struggle and a test for the Philadelphia Flyers to score some goals, and that's really what's going to be important for them. The other big story which needs to be addressed is Aleksei Kolosov. What can Flyers fans expect from Aleksei Kolosov? That's the big story. He allowed 2 goals to the Boston Bruins on Saturday, coming in about 43 minutes or something of that nature. So he had a pretty strong showing after the game against last week. I forget. I have it in my notes later on. In the first game, John Tortorella, unprompted, spoke about him and said our goaltending was good. That wasn't the problem. After the Boston matchup, John Tortorella, I wrote about this earlier today, I believe, was basically saying to the point that the goaltending isn't the issue. I don't think Kolosov's going to have a problem. He definitely did not say that about Ivan Fedotov. I'm an Ivan Fedotov supporter. I've loved watching him in practice. The real-time speed of the NHL, the close quarters, seems to be messing him up a little bit, to where the athleticism for Kolosov seems to be helping him feel a lot more comfortable, or perhaps he just naturally has adjusted better. Either way, both of those goalies in the next 3 or 4 games during this road trip are going to have an opportunity to claim that first NHL victory. I personally think that Kolosov's going to get it first. I don't think it's going to be tonight. Unfortunately, we'll get there. Just checking into where his stats lie right now in the NHL. 0-2, 3.29 goals against average, 87% save percentage, 6 goals against, 46 saves for Coley. The goalie in the AHL, again, a very limited sample size, 6 games played, 2-3-1 in Lehigh Valley, 3.20 goals against average, 3 goals a game. Same save percentage, about 88% save percentage, 19 goals to 137 saves over the end parts of 2 seasons. Kolosov has flashed the potential, I agree, to take that starting job. Fedotov really needs some time to adjust, but unfortunately, the only way that that's going to happen is him playing NHL games and with NHL speed, unless the Flyers somehow manage to get him either to agree to go to Lehigh Valley or decide to try to pass him through waivers and hope that he's able to just go and get some games there. But I also know that they like the kid that they signed in the offseason, Makiniemi, and they want to get him some games there in Lehigh Valley as well. So there's a lot of things in play with that revolving Philadelphia goalie carousel as there typically is. The Carolina Hurricanes come in with Martin Necas leading the team in scoring. He's been absolutely nasty this year. 6 goals, 12 assists to lead the team, 18 points. He's a +9 on the season. He has 103 goals, 158 assists in his career, 261 points in his 6 seasons since 2019-2020. Against the Flyers, he's actually been kind of nice. Only 2 goals, 10 assists, 12 points, and a dead even 0 plus minus. So the Flyers have actually had some success on the ice in 15 games against Martin Necas, who tends to be one of the better offensive threats available for the Carolina Hurricanes, which brings us to the next name that I have to mention in our notable name, which is Shane Gostisbehere. Yes, the one and only Ghost Bear that we all know, love, and well from the 2020-12 draft, the third round pick, number 78 overall by your Philadelphia Flyers. Yes, that's right. That same Shane Gostisbehere that the Flyers attached a second round pick and a 7th round pick to the Arizona Coyotes for Erik Gustafsson to save $4.5 million for 2 seasons on cap relief is excelling in Carolina. Unbelievable. Shane Gostisbehere this season, 10 games, 6 goals. He's got 12 assists. He's got 8. That is absolutely not right. I can tell you that right now. Those were the stats for Marty Necas. So give me 1 second. I will get the correct stats. This season, Shane Gostisbehere has 4 goals, 5 assists for 9 points, which from the defenseman, still pretty dang good. In his career, 629 games for Ghost, he is above 100 goals in his NHL career, 275 assists, 376 points. As a Philadelphia Flyer, he played 381 games, 60 goals, and 159 assists for 219 points. He was a -31. So by the time things were said and done, as his time in Philadelphia came to a close, people, both himself, I'm sure, and fans were ready to move on. And they got that wish in the offseason of 2022 when the Flyers shipped him off to Arizona. And then, sure enough, he found his way back around and is now back in the Eastern Conference for the Carolina Hurricanes and excelling in the Metro Division. Ghost has been also pretty kind against Philadelphia. 1 goal, 1 assist for 2 points. So where a lot of Flyers players come back in, tend to do some damage against Philadelphia, not quite. This is the case for Shane Gostisbehere against Philadelphia, the team that drafted him into the NHL. I'm running out of voice, so we're going to speed through the rest of this part. We've got about half an hour into the Flyers Battle Carolina down in Raleigh, North Carolina. Thursday night, the Tampa Bay Lightning welcome the Philadelphia Flyers. Tampa Bay this year, 7-5, 14 points. Second in the Central Division for the Eastern Conference. Game time, 7:30, so a little bit later on Thursday night in Amalie Arena. The big question is, does Ivan Fedotov actually start against Tampa or not? I'm going to say no. I think the fact that there's a day break in between North Carolina and Florida's trip, I think that gives enough time for the back-to-back game for Kolosov there with the additional day off. But we'll see what John Tortorella decides to do. The last 5 games for the Tampa Bay Lightning, they're 3-2. Their losses have come against 2 really good teams: the 11-1 Winnipeg Jets, the 7-1 Minnesota Wild, who have only lost to your Philadelphia Flyers in what was a wild 7-5 game down at the Wells Fargo Center that really was an anomaly on the season for both teams at this juncture. They then before that won 3 games with a road victory over the Colorado Avalanche and home victories against Nashville and the Washington Capitals. So the Tampa Bay Lightning will be the game on Thursday night. They're led by the elite scorer, that is Nikita Kucherov, 10 goals, 10 assists this season to lead the club in scoring. He's tied for the NHL goal lead at 10, tied for fourth in points with 20. 10 goals, 10 assists, 20 points, plus 5, 20 minutes of ice time. So just a lethal scorer that you have to watch out for. In his career, 737 games, 329 goals, over 563 assists, over 550 assists, closing in on 900 points for his career, 892 points. And he's just really been on an incredible run for the Tampa Bay Lightning against the Flyers. 26 games, 9 goals, 22 assists, and 31 points. A lot of those games attached to Steven Stamkos, who is now in Nashville. Stamkos long gone. Does not seem to affect the Kucherov all of that much. Still picking up his points in Tampa Bay. Notable name in Tampa, Andrei Vasilevsky, goaltender that is just one of the best in the NHL. 10 games played this season, 6-4, 2.54 goals against average, 90% save percentage, 24 goals allowed, 256 saves, second in the NHL in wins, 11th in goals against, and 16th in save percentage. For context, Sam Ersson is having a solid season. He's 19th in goals against and 28th in save percentage. Just to kind of put up the stats that Vasilevsky has and be anywhere, even in that argument, is pretty good. In his career against the Philadelphia Flyers, the former first-round pick for Tampa, 14-4 in 19 games against Philadelphia, 2.26 goals against average, 93% save percentage. So for the Flyers, they're going to have to find a way to get more than 2.5 goals past Andrei Vasilevsky. Very, very, very difficult to do. And something that they're going to have to look to do on Thursday in order to pick up a win. Saturday is a trip to the defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. They're 9-3-1 this season, 19 points, sitting atop the Metro, 5 points clear of the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Toronto Maple Leafs at the top of that Central Division. Game time at 6 o'clock on Saturday afternoon at Emirates Bank Arena. Question coming into the game for the Flyers: what do they look like in after games in Carolina and Tampa? Who started in net? And then the bigger question for me at the moment: has Matvei Michkov scored? He's been held off the scoreboard, so can he get himself back on board? I don't care if it's a power play goal. I don't care if it's a shorthanded goal, which isn't going to happen because he doesn't play shorthanded. So I don't know why I said that. Probably because I've been talking for 38 minutes. But Matvei Michkov needs to get his way back into that scoring column. I'll take an empty net goal in one of these games if it'll happen, but it's going to be something for his confidence because he's playing fairly well when he's got the time and space. And in 5-on-5 play, he doesn't have that time and space to operate. Similar to the Carolina Hurricanes' last 5 games, Florida's undefeated. They swept both games against the Dallas Stars in the Global Series in Finland. Before that, swept the road trip Buffalo, New York Islanders, and New York Rangers. So they're a team that's just been an absolute juggernaut this year. They've beaten a lot of the best teams in the league, and they're going to be a force come playoff time, as they proved last year. Leading scorer, as it was in the playoffs, Sam Reinhart, 10 goals, 11 assists to lead the team in scoring, tied with that guy I mentioned above, Nikita Kucherov. He's got 10 goals as well to lead the NHL in scoring. Sam Reinhart also tied for the first place in assists with 21 points on the season. Plus 13 on the year against the Flyers in his career, 31 games, 15 goals, 7 assists, and 22 points for Sam Reinhart. So he spent a lot of years with the Buffalo Sabres, but he did put up some stats against the Philadelphia Flyers. Notable game on Saturday is Sergei Bobrovsky. Not drafted, signed by the Flyers in May of 2010. Has 9 games on the year, 6-2-0-1, 3.08 goals against average, 89% save percentage, allows 27 goals on 222 saves, tied for second in the NHL with wins, 34th in goals against, set 38th in save percentage. So statistically speaking, not one of the best this season. But you know what? When your goalie has won 6 games and he's sitting 30th in some of those statistical categories, you'll take it. because it means you're winning on the scoreboard, and that's what's most important. As a Flyer, 83 games played for Bob, 42 wins, 23 losses, 10 assists, 2.73 goals against average, 91% save percentage, similar numbers to what he's had most of his career. Yeeted out of here in favor of Mr. Spaceman, Ilya Brizgalov, and his 8-year contract that the Flyers ended up buying out. So a move that ended up hurting the Flyers for many, many years as Sergei Bobrovsky went on to what I think is arguably going to be a Hall of Fame career that the Flyers found out of the USSR back in 2010, or at least born in the USSR, rather. I don't think he was found in the USSR, but against the Flyers in his career, he's been pretty solid. 19 wins, 7 losses, and a tie. 2.34 goals against average, stopping 92% of the pucks that are sent his way. One more game to cover, and that's going to be Saturday, a home game. San Jose Sharks come to town. They are 3-8-2, 8 points, last in the Pacific Division. Game time 7:00 at home, Wells Fargo Center, South Broad Street, Philadelphia. And then the big question is, in my mind, doesn't even concern the Flyers, because it's tough to say where they stand after 3 games, after these 3 road games. But I'm excited to see how Macklin Celebrini looks in his first action. He's due to come back tonight in the San Jose Sharks game that they're scheduled to play against the Columbus Blue Jackets. He'll have 2 other games to play before the Flyers see him. They play Minnesota Thursday and New Jersey on Sunday. But Celebrini was the number 1 overall pick in the draft for a reason. And it's always exciting to see that kind of talent come around, like the Chicago Blackhawks had Bedard come around last year and play a late season game. I want to say it was March or April last season. So it's always a good time to see the top picks in the NHL draft. You never know when it's going to end up being a Crosby or an Ovechkin like career. 20 years later, you get to say, hey, you know what? I got to see Celebrini, or I got to be in the building for Matvei Michkov's first goal. Those are special moments to be in a building for it, and even to watch on television. So that's something to watch on Saturday as the San Jose Sharks come to town in a game that really the Flyers should really have an opportunity to steal 2 points if the goaltending can hold up against those San Jose Sharks. All right, wrapping up here, let's give you our predictions for the week. We've got just myself this week, so we've got 4 games. We've got tonight in Carolina. I think it's going to be a tough battle. I think the Flyers do get it to overtime, but I think they fall. I think it's going to be a 5-4 loss. I like the way Bobby Brink has looked on the ice. I think he gets a big goal, and I think that the goaltender, Kolosov, impresses tonight. Doesn't quite get that first win yet, but he does get the team to overtime, gets a point in the Metro standings against a team that have won 6 straight. So I would take the bonus point there and count that as a win of getting a point in the standings, unless your goal is what Mr. Twister said, which is that top 5 pick, in which case, scratch that. You don't want to get to overtime, but I think they scratch and claw. I think that they bounce back against the shutout to Boston, get a point tonight. They travel to Tampa Bay 2 nights later. And Thursday night matchup in Tampa Bay. I think once again the Flyers get the overtime, the game 2 overtime. I think they come out ahead on it. 4-3 win. I think Kolosov actually does play that second game because of that extra day off. The travel day to go Wednesday from Carolina to Florida doesn't seem that bad, especially if it's by flight. So I think Kolosov has enough rest to be able to play in that game. It's not a traditional back-to-back as in you played Wednesday and then Thursday. But in back-to-back games, I think he should be fine to handle those 2 games. I think my prediction for the game is going to be on the Tampa Bay side of things. I think Kucherov gets 2 goals and adds to his NHL scoring lead. But I think ultimately the Flyers come away with that victory and an important 2 points in the standings. The next game will be Saturday, the fight against the Florida Panthers. Florida, I think, is just too good to stop right now. They've won 5 straight. They've beaten a lot of the tough teams, especially if Bobrovsky is playing. I have it as a 5-1 loss for the Flyers. I think Florida gets a couple of early goals. They don't stop partying down in Sunrise, and the Florida Panthers come away with a win. Emil Andre gets the goal there. As my prediction, don't know if it's going to happen. I like what I've seen with his work on the power play. So I think he has an opportunity to impress some people if he continues to get that playing time. With the man advantage, I think he eventually gets one in the net. So my prediction for a Florida game will be an Emil Andre goal. Finally, we've got Monday night. San Jose Sharks come into town. I have a 5-3 win. I'm going to go out on a limb. You can cut this. You can call me out. See Babos Writes on X, Twitter, Christopher Babos on LinkedIn, Christopher Michael on Facebook, wherever you want to find me. Just be nice. I think Ivan Fedotov gets his first NHL win in a 5-3 victory over the San Jose Sharks. No goal predictions on that one. I think that's big enough that Fedotov gets his first win. So I think this time next week, hopefully joined by Eric Reese, after all the election stuff is settled, the Philadelphia Flyers have a 2-2 week. Both goaltenders, Aleksei Kolosov, Ivan Fedotov, both pick up their first NHL win. And we get to break it down right here for you next week on Shoot Another Flyer Show. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining me here. 46 minutes. We ran solo. I thought I was hoping to get 15 minutes, so I'm thrilled to get 45. Thank you very much. I know a lot of you have stuck with me here this entire time. Mr. Twitzer, thank you very much for checking in. Jenkin905, appreciate the messages. Send some love, likes, subscribe, do all of that grand stuff. Find me on Philly Sports Network. Flyers coverage, Eagles coverage, Total Apex Sports. We've got the Capitals coverage as well for Alex Ovechkin. I'm also a Hershey Cubs scout. Yes, that's right. I'm a hockey scout. So we are currently looking for players to join that organization. So if there's anybody that you know, friends, family, or anything like that, under 16, under 18 minor hockey, the Hershey Cubs are a USPHL, United States Professional Hockey League team that I'm scouting for in the area. So feel free to drop me a message. We can get in contact with some people if that's something that's an opportunity that might be available to help some young players hopefully get a college education, which is something that's very near and dear to me. I think education is very important. I have gone and gotten my master's degree, which helps to back that up. So if I can do my part to help any athletes get a college education through my work with the Hershey Cubs, then honestly, I feel like I'm doing some good in this world. And honestly, I think that's what we're all here to do. So thanks very much for sticking with me here. My name's Chris Babos with Philly Sports Network. Enjoy the Flyers games this week. There's 4 games coming up. And we'll see you here next week for Shoot Another Flyer Show. Have a wonderful evening. Let's go Flyers.